Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company here on 440 Sports. Of course, like and subscribe on this wonderful Thursday afternoon. And let me say this, time freaking flies. The week flies when you're doing 1 hour a day instead of doing 4 hours a day. So let me first say, like I've said every single day that we've had this show, like and subscribe and tell all your friends. And we're still in the 800 range. As far as the subscribers are concerned, we're getting close to 900. We'd like to be at 1,000 by the end of the week. So that's the first thing, like and subscribe. The second thing that I want to get to is, according to Braden Gall, who of course runs, owns, operates 440 Sports. According to Braden Gall, he said, quote, "Your show is published on iTunes, but it may take a few hours to populate," which means, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Oh, my God. Our show is going to be on iTunes. Now, I did yesterday. I listened on iHeart, where our show is. Our show is on Spotify. Of course, our show is on YouTube. I mean, I want wherever you listen to shows, that's where I want to get to. But, I mean, I went and picked my son up from school, and I was listening to it. And I'm like, damn, this sounds better than when I was on the radio. So we're going to iTunes. Now, many people are saying they want to know the gossip. Just waiting on the Stillman soap opera. So yesterday on the program, at the very, very end, I said, who wants to hear this unsubstantiated, but from a very reliable source, Tennessee Titans gossip? Who wants to hear it? I said, we're going to put up a poll on Twitter, and the poll has been overwhelmingly positive in terms of you want to hear the gossip, which does not surprise me. Gossip wins the day. And I did say yesterday, this comes from one of my legitimate Titan sources. Now, I wouldn't say it's my only source because I have many Titan sources. I have a couple. I'm not going to sit there and act like the entire organization's in my pocket because that's not true. But I do have, a couple of sources, and this is one of my chief ones. And if you've been listening, and in fact, this guy has been so right when it comes to inside info with the Titans that he's told me things that I have reported that other people who are in the satchel for the Titans have come out and reported. And they've said, the people inside the Titan satchel, they have reported that my reporting is wrong, and then my reporting ended up being true. And if you've been following long enough, you maybe have a good idea of what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to name specifics. So the reason I feel comfortable going with this just legitimate gossip, I mean, again, just it's total and obvious gossip. Like it's nothing more than that. It's because a couple years ago, when I had the Aaron Rodgers story that Aaron Rodgers had bought a house in Williamson County, which it has been debated, was it Brentwood? Was it Franklin? Again, semantics. Was it a house? Was it raw land where he's building a house? Again, semantics. As all that was going down, I had the story. And I was going to go and tell the tea. But I thought to myself, do I need to call the agent? Do I need to talk to David Dunn, who at the time was Aaron Rodgers' agent? I think he has since retired. He was with Athletes First. Do I need to call Aaron's agent and say, and I talked to my buddy Jim Murray, who hosts radio in Boston, and I said, do I need to, go in there and talk to the agent and do the response? He was like, fuck no. No, don't call somebody who is going to kill this story. So don't just, and I could have called probably directly one of the subjects or both of the subjects involved in this story, but I didn't because I knew they were going to shoot it down anyways. But here's the gossip. The gossip is this. According to my chief Titans source, he told me it's only a matter of time before it comes out that Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi are not seeing eye to eye. He said it's only a matter of time. In fact, we're going to put it up here on the stream if you're watching. We're going to put it up here. Here is the text exchange in which the source, you can tell my text bubble is blue. The source says only a matter of time before we hear about Brinker and Borgonzi being at odds. My response, seriously? Like, really? After week one? That's what we're going to? So I asked, seriously? And the source replied, again, you can see the text exchange over here. Let me point in the right direction. You can see the text exchange right here on the stream. Yes. So that's the drama. And again, who knows what that actually means? Because it may mean that Brinker and Borgonzi just have disagreements, but at the end of the day, they're pulling the rope in the same direction. And I'm sure, again, without wanting to speak for somebody else, that's probably what they would have said. But I have to say this, when it comes to Brinker and Borgonzi not seeing eye to eye. Didn't we know this was going to happen? Like, didn't we know when the Titans hired a general manager, and I put general manager in quotation marks because I talked to somebody at the Super Bowl who is inside the NFL in a very high and prominent position who said to me, I mean, that's not really a real GM job. Like, Chad Brinker's calling the shots. And I was like, well, but they say it is a real GM job. But it looked like on the surface when they fired Rand Carthon and they said Chad Brinker's in charge of football and that they're going to hire a general manager who will report to Chad Brinker, I thought to myself, well, then you're really just hiring an assistant general manager. And remember, the league was skeptical at first that they were actually hiring a real general manager, and the Titans assured the league, no, this is a real general manager position. This is serious shit here. This is real. And I'm very skeptical of everything the Titans say because they have lied so many times about just really meaningful stuff, but also some real meaningless shit. But they have just lied so much that I am incredibly skeptical when it comes to the Titans and anything they say. But I did buy a little bit that Chad Brinker was going to basically let Mike Borgonzi run the show. Again, the Titans are saying, hey, you know, Mike Borgonzi is our general manager, Chad Brinker is our president of football operations, and Chad is the final say on everything football. Well, then, doesn't that really make Chad the general manager? I was actually surprised that Mike Borgonzi took the job. And maybe I shouldn't have been surprised because it's one of 32 in the NFL and it's one of 32 with a general manager's salary. Now, I don't know what Mike Borgonzi was making in Kansas City, and I don't know what Mike Borgonzi is making here, but my understanding is there is a massive difference between assistant general manager and general manager. And I bet you Mike Borgonzi is making a full general manager's salary, or else I don't think he would have taken the job. I was surprised again that he took the job because I figured assistant general manager of the Chiefs, they'll be back in the AFC Championship game. They'll be back in the Super Bowl. And so when he ends up taking that job, you know, the Titan job, he's going to be giving away a real general manager position to take what is essentially a fake general manager position with the worst team in the league, with a coach he didn't hire, with volatile ownership. Why would you do that? Now, these guys that were looking for jobs that nobody had heard of, that were interviewing with the Titans, like John Ed Sullivan or whatever from the Packers, that makes sense. If a guy like Thomas Dimitrov, who I, by the way, would have hired, I would have gotten rid of Brinker and I would have put Dimitrov in charge. That's just me. But if Thomas Dimitrov, that makes sense to me because Thomas Dimitrov was out of the league, and to get back in as a general manager, you take whatever job you can get. I was surprised Borgonzi did it. But Borgonzi did take the general manager job. And the Titans have presented Mike Borgonzi as if he is the decision maker. I mean, people say when it comes to the Titans, they'll be like, Mike Borgonzi picked him. Or Mike Borgonzi would say to Brian Callahan. And at the end of the day, Chad Brinker is the guy who makes the final call on who they pick. And it's always been that way. Chad Brinker makes the final call on the coaching staff. Chad Brinker makes the final call on who they sign in free agency. And here's why this was inevitable. Inevitable that this was going to happen. Because at the end of the day, this is Mike Borgonzi's only opportunity as a general manager. Win, lose, that's all anybody will remember. Nobody will remember what your job description was, or not even job description. Nobody will know what your job responsibilities were. They'll just know whether or not you won or lost. So if the Titans, let's say, stink this year and stink next year, and Amy fires everybody the way she always does, then Mike Borgonzi is going to get fired. And we'll just remember that, oh yeah, he was in Tennessee and he sucked. Because nobody ever talks about the fact that Rustin Webster had Mike Reinfeldt above him as president. And that when Mike Reinfeldt got the boot and Mike Munchak got the boot and Ken Wisenhunt came in with Tommy Smith for that first year, Rustin Webster basically answered to Ken Wisenhunt for that first season. Because Tommy Smith, who was the de facto owner, hired Wisenhunt, not Rustin Webster. But we never look back at Rustin Webster and say, holy crap, this guy was dealt a shitty hand. This guy was dealt Munchak as coach, Jake Locker as quarterback, then Wisenhunt came in, he had to work with him and really work for him for a year, then he got put in charge, and the team was terrible and he got fired. Let's give Rustin Webster another chance. Nobody says that. So I can see why Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker would have friction. Now, again, some people will say that that's a good thing. Some people will say that it is a good thing that, hey, again, what did the source say to me? That they don't see eye to eye. There's a lot of different interpretations. And some people will say that's a good thing. You don't want everybody every day saying, that's a good one, Jimmy. That's a good one, Johnny. That's a good one. Then you have everybody patting each other on the ass all day talking about how good they are as opposed to actually trying to solve problems. And that's what you have right now in a head coach. But here's where I see the divide. And I'm going to use one specific player. Not that this is the evidence that this would be what they don't see eye to eye on. But if I was trying to piece the puzzle together, this would probably be where I'd start if I was investigating or researching or whatever. What I would do is I would look at Dan Moore Jr. Now, everybody out in Titanland just is shitting on Dan Moore Jr. And I actually liked the signing of Dan Moore Jr. when it happened. I understood it. I wouldn't say that I loved it. My plan was to go get Dan Moore because he was the only left tackle on the market. And I always believed that J.C. Latham was a right tackle. And my whole thing this offseason was I'm going to trade the picks. I'm going to get Dan Moore to play left tackle. I'm going to get Sam Darnold. I'm going to draft Matthew Golden out of Texas, and we're going to run the ball and throw the ball. And maybe that wouldn't have worked. I don't know. So I actually liked the signing of Dan Moore. And again, liked might be strong. I understood it. But if you remember when Dan Moore Jr. was signed, Adam Schefter tweeted it out. And Adam Schefter said, remember at the very beginning of free agency, it was like Jared Stillman signs for Jared Stillman didn't sign, but Jared Stillman signs for 4 years and $93 million with the Green Bay Packers, and the deal was worked out by Jared Stillman's agent, Tommy Condon of CAA, along with whatever. And Adam Schefter said that the deal was done by Dan Moore's agent, whoever the fuck that is, and Chad Brinker. And I remember at the time being like, Brinker? Okay. So the Titans, and we know why this is, the Titans had money for one impact free agent this year. And it was Dan Moore. They didn't spend on a tight end. They didn't spend on a receiver. They really didn't spend any money on defense. I mean, I think what they spent on defense for Xavier Woods and Cody Barton and Draymond Jones basically equaled Kenneth Murray and Harold Landry, and there was probably some savings left over, and then include Chidobe Awuzie. So they didn't spend any money really on defense. They didn't get a tight end. They didn't get a receiver. They didn't get a running back. They used a draft pick on a quarterback. They didn't even spend on backup quarterback. They're paying him league minimum. So they really spent on one guy. Everything else was just a deck furniture. They bought a right guard and an inside backer and a kicker. But again, that's all pocket change. You know, the one real thing they did was Dan Moore. And so you're Mike Borgonzi, and you're now general manager, and you want to build your team with this player, that player, these free agents. You want to go after Nick Bolton, the inside backer from the Chiefs. You were in Kansas City. He's a team captain. You think you need a leader. But Chad Brinker wants to spend the money on Dan Moore. Again, who has the final say? And you all know the answer to this. The final say with the Tennessee Titans goes to Chad Brinker. So if you're Mike Borgonzi and you didn't want Dan Moore, and again, I don't know if he did or didn't want Dan Moore, but Dan Moore was a very polarizing signing. I can make the argument for either side of this. Should they have signed him? Should they not have signed him? And again, I think they should have signed him because they needed a left tackle. He is a starting left tackle on a multiple-time playoff team. And J.C. Latham, no matter how much Rand Carthon and Bill Callahan said, was a right tackle, not a left tackle. So this was the smart move, in my opinion, to make, and maybe they both were on board for it, whatever. But again, that's the type of thing where you hired me to be general manager. When I slept on that cot, and that, because the Chiefs are one of those teams like the Steelers where they go away for training camp. When I slept on that cot in that dorm room at St. Joseph's College in Nowheresville, Missouri, every day, one day dreaming of being general manager, I thought I'd get to pick my own players. Well, he doesn't, because Chad Brinker picks the players. Think about it like this with me. Let's say the Tennessee Titans had come to me and said, Jared, you really did a great job last year of just shitting on Rand Carthon and every move he made on the radio. So you know what? We've decided we're going to hire you. We're going to hire you to be the general manager. But you have to answer to Chad Brinker. Now, we all know, while that would never happen, if I got offered the Titans general manager job, I would take it. And I think I would be more qualified and better at it than the guy who had it last year. That's just me. But if I got offered the job, I would take it. Even if I had to answer to Chad Brinker. Now, you all know what I wanted to do. You all know that I wanted to sign Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, I did not watch the game, but his stat line, not impressive against San Francisco last week. I wanted to sign Sam Darnold. I wanted to trade the pick. I did not want to draft Cam Ward. I wanted to go in that direction. Well, if Chad Brinker's in charge and Chad Brinker says, hey, we're going to draft Cam Ward, get over it, deal with it. I know you like Darnold. I don't like Darnold. So we're going to draft Cam Ward. End of story. Well, that's like being on the bridge of the Enterprise. Once Captain Picard has made his decision, it doesn't matter what Commander Riker thinks. And at the end of the day, even though most of us assume that the general manager is the captain, in this case, he's not. He's the first officer. So you've given me the GM title. You've given me the GM salary, which is why I took the job. And you're treating me like a GM in terms of me doing press conferences and interviews, and people want to know who I'm going to pick. And during the draft, after night one, I'm the one doing the press conference. But the most important decision about the football team the single most important decision, who is going to quarterback it, I would not have been able to make. So I can see where the frustration would be. I mean, I'd still be happy every month when that check hits my bank account, and that would make me suck it up a little bit. But I certainly, if I wanted to build the team this way and Chad wanted to build the team that way, it certainly would drive me crazy, especially knowing that this was my only shot. So I don't know what's next, and I don't know if the not seeing eye to eye is just, hey, we have disagreements, we come together, we settle them, we, ready, break, and that's it, and everybody's happy, or if the we're not seeing eye to eye is be ready for Vrabel Carthon Part 2. And this is why I didn't call Brinker about this, because I know, no disrespect, if I had called Brinker or if I had gotten in touch with Borgonzi and I had said, hey, word on the street is you guys aren't seeing eye to eye, I guarantee you they would have said some shit like, oh, no. We're best buddies. The same way the Titans, if you remember, the Titans brought TD into the facility for an exclusive interview with Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel. Ran Carthon, who did not do interviews during the season. They brought TD in, and TD wrote a story in which Vrabel and Carthon, and I'm not on TD for this, all TD can do is report what the guys are telling him. But the story was Vrabel and Carthon, they see eye to eye. They're working together. They're in this together. They're in the... Yeah, bullshit. I mean, come on now. So that's just, again, you wanted to hear the gossip. I am in a position where I can freely gossip and it's not going to come back on anybody else. Maybe Braden, but that is the gossip. That again, my source, who, when it comes to the Titans, my source is pretty good. My source said right here that it's only a matter of time before it comes out that Brinker and Borgonzi do not see eye to eye. Again, I said, seriously? And he said yes. So that's the first thing. By the way, I do want to put in here, and one thing I'm very proud about with this program is that we do not have commercials right now. Now, at some point that will change, but I have gotten messages from people that have said, hey, are you doing ads and sponsorships and things like that? And probably next week, we'll be more focused on that. I wanted to get the show going, and I wanted it to have a proof of concept to tell people, hey, this is what you'd be. But somebody did reach out yesterday, and I would just say, hey, Braden Gall, 440 Sports, that is part of our partnership. They run that stuff. If you are interested, send me a message, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and we'll get 440 in contact with you in that regard. Okay. The second topic. So Brian Callahan yesterday was asked what I thought was a very, very good question by Gentry Estes. And let me give a little backstory here on the Callahan front, which is when I met Brian Callahan, it was the day after his introductory press conference. I talked to the Titans and I said, hey, I can't make it to the press conference because it's at 1:00 and I'm on the air at 2:00. And so that would be too quick of a turnaround. But how about tomorrow I come in at the ass crack of dawn and sit down with Brian Callahan, and, that way we get to know each other. We tape an interview, but also like, hey, I'm the asshole in town. Like, nice to meet you. Here's my phone number. If you've got a problem, you call me and you can rip my ass and I won't go telling people, but, let's just get that out of the way. And after that happened, I really walked away from that experience. We were together about 30 minutes and I really liked him. And I was hopeful for Brian Callahan as a head coach. He was, after all, a massive breath of fresh air following Mike Vrabel. But again, the word that I had for him was hopeful. I was hopeful that Brian Callahan was going to be a good coach. Then when he started trying to sell us on Nicholas Petit-Frere and Jalen Duncan at right tackle, I started to get a little worried. Then when I went to training camp and saw they couldn't get a first down in joint practices against the Seattle Seahawks, and he shrugged it off, I was absolutely petrified. But not even then. did I lose complete and total faith in Brian Callahan until week 3 last year when Malik Willis and the Packers walked into Nissan Stadium and absolutely took the bone out of their rear ends. And from that point on, I was rooting for Callahan, but I absolutely was betting against him. At that point, everything he said, I just kind of rolled my eyes. So Gentry Estes asked Callahan yesterday what I thought was a very good question. Basically, is a week 1 an indication with this team of, oh, here we go again, just like last year? Take a look.
How concerned are you about the here we go again aspect to this, or is this team different enough to where you don't see that happening?
Yeah, this team is very different from that. I understand where you're coming from. I know that feeling. But I didn't feel that at all from our football team in that game. I was frustrated at just the things that we could have done to win the game, and a game that I felt like we had a very good chance to win. To not come out of that playing better than we did in all 3 phases, I think, was what was disappointing. Disappointed in myself, obviously, on top of it. So I love the makeup of our football team. I really do. I think they have the right mentality. They understand that we always are going to have a chance. They play really hard. They play with great effort. Those things are going to help us along the way, and we're going to win more football games. But that feeling that can creep in sometimes, I don't feel it from our guys. I think we've got really good leadership. The leadership has grown quite a bit, I think, in a year's time. And the new faces we've added and the young players and their demeanor and makeup gives me a ton of confidence that that's not something that we have to worry about. And I really do. I mean, I know it's only 1 week and all that, but I really do like the makeup of our football team and where they stand. It's a night and day difference in totality from a year ago.
Night and day difference. So Brian Callahan says, no, this team is way different than last year's team. Can I ask, based off of what? Yes, Cam Ward is in and Will Levis is out. And there is a difference because Cam Ward is a better player. I mean, Cam Ward is absolutely a better player than Will Levis. Cam Ward is trying to think of the right way to say this, he's a lot savvier than Will Levis. Like the things that Levis wishes he could do when he played hero ball, Cam actually has the God-given ability to do. But was Sunday's game not a carbon copy of last year's first game? A very winnable game that the Titans outplayed the opponent in the first half and then lost because of pure incompetence. They lost that Bears game because of pure incompetence. And they lost the Broncos game because of pure incompetence. That kind of feels like the same to me. The Titans, for the second year in a row, began their season doing this to themselves. Denver did not make them drop those passes or fumble the ball. Denver did not tackle after the whistle on a third down. Denver did not decide not to challenge a call. And Denver knew the rules. Denver didn't force the Titans into 13 penalties for 131 yards. And again, all of those things, dropped passes, ball protection, penalties, game management, it's all responsibility and accountability. What Brian Callahan keeps telling everybody is, hey, believe in these things that you can't see. Basically, have faith in my ability to coach. Have faith in the makeup of this team. Have faith. And that's great, but I have to ask, based off of what? He keeps arguing that the makeup of this team is night and day different than last year. But again, the only real difference is Cam Ward in, Harold Landry out. Other than that, it's pretty much the same team. So it's hard for me to believe that it is a night and day difference. If you wanted to say night and day difference between Vrabel, Tannehill, and Derrick Henry and what it is today, fine. But night and day difference just because of Cam Ward? That's hard for me to believe. And also in the past, it's been hard for me to believe a lot of the things that Brian Callahan has said. But the difference between now and then is that I think now it's starting to be hard for you to believe a lot of the things Brian Callahan is saying. So just like the Pee Wee program, in which, again, a lot of people were like, no, Jared, this is accountability. This will work. I am telling you, Jared, you don't understand. You don't. So instead of that, I have to give credit where credit is due, because I think the fans now are saying, no. You need to prove that this team has a different makeup than last year's team. And remember that last year's team was so mentally weak that they lost a game on the road at Washington because, as explained by their own players, they were either too hungover from the week before when they won their third game in 11 tries, or because it was too cold. Again, what on Sunday makes you think this is a night and day different makeup than what we saw last year, which did feel like quitting, and a team that didn't have answers? Again, Brian Callahan wants us to believe something that we can't see, and for that, I have a hard time with. So one thing we haven't done, because we've only had an hour, we haven't had to fill 4 hours the way that we haven't done a lot of guests on the program. And so the guest that I bring on early on, now tomorrow, we got a guest I'm pretty excited about, James Foster. No Flags Films. He's going to join the show tomorrow, and we're going to go over the tape. You know, we're going to talk about the Cam tape. We're going to talk about the offensive line tape. We're going to talk about the Rams tape and look forward to the game on Sunday. And I am excited about that. Of course, James is part of our group here at 440. It's he and Braden do the Hot Read podcast. So that I am excited about. But I always say we got to bring in some of the kind of old faces that we're used to around here. So with that, let's get right into it. Joined now by, for the first time ever, on the brand new Stillman and Company show, Cory Curtis, News 2. Cory, you're the second guest we've had.
So I'm part of the company.
You are breathing super loud into your mic. Goodness gracious. I might have to get you a CPAP machine to be on this program.
Well, I am old, so that would make sense.
But you're also a triathlete, so I believe in you.
Retired.
So, Cory, I want to start with this. What do you think of the new show? And the idea that I'm going to ask you this question. It's kind of an unhinged platform or unfiltered platform, so I can kind of say whatever. But when the radio station and I broke up, what did you think was next for me? What did you think was next for our relationship? Would we ever have this kind of ever again?
I certainly expected you to call me again, because I mean, you wouldn't have the chance to make fun of me or disagree with me if you didn't. So I knew you would wind up somewhere on some platform. I knew you didn't want to leave Nashville, because I know you always consider this home. So I knew you'd be somewhere, and you let everybody know you were going to pop up. Okay, so it's not like you disappeared.
Yeah, I did do that. I mean, I kind of, this had been an idea of mine. You know, when you're in the middle of a contract negotiation, I think in my experience, there was a lot of going through my head of, okay, what if it doesn't come to pass? You know, then what's next? So this wasn't like it was something that I hadn't thought about. But I'm just going to tell you, you and I were texting about this earlier today. Not doing 4 hours of solo daily radio it's a game changer, like as far as my life is concerned.
Well, I've filled in for 4 hours before. It's a very long show. I'm doing 3 hours on Wednesdays on that station now. And even there, I can tell how much easier doing 3 is rather than 4. Mm-hmm. So 4 is a very long time, especially when you're a single host. I mean, a single host to carry through 4 hours is, I mean, you're talking about me being a triathlete. That's a gauntlet. That's a gauntlet, and that's a 5-day-a-week gauntlet. And so I can totally see how, you know, being a new dad, you know, you're willing to make some changes, you know, for one reason or another, you know, to make your life easier.
Yeah. So let's get into the Titans. Number one, do you think Brian Callahan is competent?
Yeah. I mean, look, we all make mistakes. Jared Stillman's made mistakes. Cory Curtis has made mistakes. Brian Callahan's made mistakes. But as a head coach of a football team, you cannot ever be in the discussion for why your team lost the game. And that is just that is the one place you don't want to be. The second place would be the team giving up on you, okay? Because the team gives up on you, it's over. But, when you're in a close game, you don't want those things. The halftime debacle was bad enough. I mean, he's been around enough football where I found that decision shocking. I mean, I'm on Twitter during the game just like you are. We both tweeted out at virtually the same time the exact same thing. He's got to take a knee and get into the locker room 6-3. The Broncos only had 2 timeouts. So he didn't need room to punt. He wasn't going to have to punt. He was going to take 3 knees and go to the locker room. It was a crazy, crazy decision. And that bothers me more than the non-challenge, because number one, I think even if they had challenged, I don't think there was a good enough view of it to change the call. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, if they called him inbounds, there wasn't good enough call to change that call either. But he got himself into trouble when he changed his answer. And also, he should have never said what he said after in the post game. And that's where, he has people around him when he's on the field. So when he gets that no challenge call, he needs good advice. He needs sound advice that he can trust and that he can go with on a snap-second decision. That is in question mightily right now. For me, can he trust the guy upstairs? And then in the post game, he's got to have a discussion with somebody about what their answer is, because they know that question about the non-challenge is definitely coming. And you have to have an answer that quashes it, that after the game is over, it's over. You made your mistake and you move on. But they gave the worst possible answer, which indicated they didn't know the rules.
I also thought that he screwed up on Monday too, right? So he gets there on Monday and he says, I said to TD before the press conference, he needs to get up there and say, I fucked up.
And he did. He did. And then he got upset. And then he got upset because this is you want my opinion. I got in a fight with somebody this weekend about what our opinions are and what we know. And when we say things that we know, something that we know when we don't know it. I don't know this. This is my relationship with Brian Callahan. This is my covering the NFL for 20 plus years. I think he got bad advice and didn't want to hang anybody out to dry. And he tried taking the blame for it. But he screwed it up in the post game when he said he basically didn't know the rules. And then he tried taking the blame for it, and the questions kept coming, and he got frustrated, and you could see on his face, I know the rules. But that's where you got to get the question right the first time, because once you don't there and you start backtracking and then the questions keep, this doesn't match, that's where you get into trouble. Lou Holtz used to always tell me, winning happens when preparation meets opportunity. He wasn't prepared in the post game properly to end that story.
So I just asked you, is the coach competent? You said yes, but then brought up the incompetence at the end of the half.
Yep.
Then brought up the incompetence in terms of his staff knowing the rules or what the advice they were giving him was, and then the incompetence of how he handled the post game and
those
how
are all
he
bad.
handled Monday.
Yeah.
So at what point does that add up to he's not competent enough to be a head coach?
Well, look, he's 3-15, right? I mean, the number is the number. We can all point to the roster and, point to, who he hired and who he didn't hire. And all these things. There's good and there's bad. I mean, we have to agree the defense looked better. We have to agree Bones Fossil's group certainly looked much better than a year ago. So there are positives, but in this game, those positives have to be able to outweigh the negatives. It's like, remember Brett Favre? I mean, he'd throw 15 interceptions, 20 interceptions a year, but he made so many other plays that it didn't matter. Okay. So if you score 40 points, okay, like Sean Payton made a horrible decision to end the game. Horrible decision when he threw that.
What I thought was going to be a good backdoor cover.
Yeah, when he threw the bomb up in the air that fell incomplete. I know the guy was open on the other side of the field, but that doesn't matter. He put his team in position that he didn't have to put them in position to. Their defense was stifling. There was no reason to do it. Just punt the ball, end the game. And he didn't do that. But he got away with it, all right, because they still won the game. So nobody rails Sean Payton. When you're 3-15, you have to be perfect because people are looking for every reason as to why you're losing. And, it's better when you're the head coach and you can say my tackles are terrible. Okay, that gives you plausible deniability. It's better when you're the head coach and say the quarterback had Chigakonkwo wide open. I can't throw it for him. But the quarterback didn't make the decision to not take a knee at halftime. Okay, and the quarterback didn't answer the question poorly after the game. It's all on him. And he's the only one who can dig himself out of it. Is he competent or not competent? Jared, if he doesn't get it turned around, he's going to get fired. It's that simple.
Okay, so I go back to what happened after the game, where he definitively said that you had to have a foot in bounds, which is completely and factually incorrect.
What did we learn with Jonnu? 1 cheek equals 2 feet?
That in and of itself to me is totally disqualifying as a head coach to not know what I think is a kind of a second tier rule. Like it's not the same as 10 yards equals a first down.
And he's an offensive guy too.
Yeah. So, but the head coach should know all the rules. Like offense, defense, that's paid for.
Whatever problems any of us may have had with Mike Vrabel or Jeff Fisher, those guys knew the rule book inside and out. And you're right. That when you're the head coach, you got to know the rules.
I'm just going to tell you, Jeff Fisher's boss would not have been okay with him not knowing the rules. I can swear to you by. But so he obviously didn't know the rule on Sunday night or at least didn't know it definitively because instead of saying if your theory is right that the person in his ear said, no, you have to have a foot in bounds too, then Callahan, if he knew the rule definitively, would have said, no, you don't need that. And he wouldn't have gone to the podium and said that you did need it. So then when he pushed back on me, when I was like last night, you said you misspoke. So did you know that 1 elbow equals 2 feet, or did you not know that? Which I'm not going to feel bad about. He set himself up for that. And I wanted to put on the record right there and say it. So all of that leads me to this, which is if you can't handle that, what makes me think you're going to be able to develop a franchise quarterback?
No, look, they're 3-15. Okay, they're all legitimate concerns, and he's got one shot at this. All right, I don't know how far that shot goes in this season, but he's got. Look, he's just like the Titans' offensive line. He's got to give people reasons to believe at this point. When you walk in the door, you come in, Rand Carthon came in with a standing ovation. People lined up on the stairwell. Everyone had reason to believe he was the guy. And when you get hired as the head coach, I mean, there are a few head coaches who get hired where you're like, usually, he was a hot, young candidate. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There were other teams interested in Brian Callahan, but you don't get long to get this right. The guy up in Detroit started really poorly. I mean, and it looked, biting kneecaps and chugging 60-ounce coffees and, all the stuff that didn't seem important, and they're losing games, but they stuck with the process. I'm not comparing him to Dan Campbell, but I'm comparing the results, okay? They still believed in Dan Campbell. Like, even they were struggling, they were wholeheartedly. I mean, the Lions ownership came out and said, no, he is the guy. He has this thing pointed in the right direction. There's no way Mike Borgonzi could come out or Chad Brinker could come out on Tuesday and be like, oh, yeah, it happens. We are firmly behind this, And look, he knows he messed up. Now, that doesn't do you any good. But he absolutely – it's like the Levis game last year in Chicago. He cannot have – he has to be perfect Sunday.
Oh, if he blows it Sunday, I don't know what's going to – he might get fired. If he blows it to like where it's incompetence, like last Sunday, they might have to fire him. Corey, I'm telling you, I can't take him seriously. Gentry asked him a question yesterday about, how do you know that this team isn't the same as last year and he's like, oh yeah, the makeup of this team's way different. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to believe anything? You don't even know the fucking rules.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about a guy that you love talking about, and that's Jeffrey Simmons.
Oh yeah, well, he at least knows the rule. I mean, he screwed up, but at least he knows the rule. And
but listen, you love to make fun of Callahan's offseason program, which was about accountability and leadership and eliminating sins.
Call it what it is. The Pee-wee program.
Who was the one guy who wasn't there?
Simmons.
And who was the guy who committed the pre-snap foul and the post-play foul?
Simmons. Their leader, their captain.
Is that on the head coach?
Yes.
Okay, I put it on Jeffrey Simmons, who felt like he didn't have to be there and who feels like he's above the team rules.
I don't know. Everybody else that was at the Pee Wee program got penalized on Sunday too.
Did they get another personal foul?
Yeah, James Williams got one.
Okay.
Which, whatever. But
that was bad. Yeah, that was bad too. But
so, Cory, what do you think about this? My source, who has been right before on multiple occasions, my source told me on Tuesday, get ready to start hearing some talk about Brinker and Borgonzi not seeing eye to eye.
Oh,
I
boy.
said to my source, seriously, ? In fact, well, let's go ahead. It was Cory's with us. We're going to put this up on the screen right there. You see the text message right above Cory's head where I said, seriously? And he said, yes. So,
my eyesight's not so good.
did you get your glasses?
Only a matter of time. So he says he's not hearing it now. Or no, it's a matter of time before it comes out. All right.
Okay. What do you make of? And I said, yes, I said, I got some pure unadulterated Titans gossip that I would, I don't know if I should share it but it comes from a viable source. I put out a poll on Twitter. I said, should I share the gossip? Twitter overwhelmingly, which I'm sure this does not surprise you. Twitter overwhelmingly said yes. So that is the gossip du jour. What do you make of it?
I make of it winning cures a lot of problems. And when you're 3-15 over your last 18, and that goes, go beyond that into the last couple Mike Vrabel years. When you're losing, there's a lot of disagreements and there's a lot of finger pointing and there's a lot of people who think it should be done a different way. Now, I will say there are a lot of chefs in the kitchen over there. I mean, they've got a lot. How many former GMs are on that staff?
Don't you think that you kind of set yourself up for this when you made Mike Borgonzi the general manager, but you had Chad Brinker in the position of football director? I
don't have a problem. The Titans had that before when they had Mike Reinfeldt and Rustin Webster. Okay. And so nobody thought it was a big deal then, except for Bud Adams, who said, why do I have two people doing the same job that one person had? But that's because he wanted to save the money. And so he fired Mike Reinfeldt. So, I mean, I don't have a hard time with that. What I have a hard time with are results. All right. You can cut the pie up however you want to cut it. I don't care. Draft good players and develop them. They've drafted a hell of a lot of not good players. All right. We have seen them. All right. Some of them aren't even. Jaquan Jackson isn't even on a practice squad right now. He just got drafted last year. Isaiah Wilson, who knows what he's up to? I mean, we just had way too much of that around here. And I understand picking the thing apart, but if they make good decisions and they win games, none of it matters. None of it matters. But you're right. When you lose, you set yourself up. And when you have other chefs in the kitchen who are like, I would have done it this way. I would have done it this way. And what are they looking at, Jared? Opportunity.
Yeah.
They're looking at opportunity. And so you just, who's trying to get me? I always, after about 3 years, I looked at that Vrabel and Robinson relationship and I just went, I would watch my back, Jack.
Cory Curtis, News 2, last one for you. What kind of chance do you give the Titans on Sunday?
Look, the Rams are really good. You've got a Hall of Fame quarterback. You've got at least one Hall of Fame receiver.
Hall of Fame coach.
I was going to get there. You got a Hall of Fame coach. You've got a loaded defensive front. I mean, they're going to be a handful. And as long as Stafford stays healthy, they're a legit Super Bowl contender, I think, without a doubt. Having said all that, 14-9 against the Texans. And the Texans don't look like they're just like a runaway team in the AFC South this year. I mean, we think they're better than everybody, but that's because we think that C.J. Stroud's better than the other quarterbacks. So I think their week one result, and we know week one can be a liar, was a little underwhelming. But, I mean, Puka Nakua's 10 for 130 in that game. So I'm still trying to figure out how they only scored 14 points. Look, the Titans are a 5.5-point dog. I think my final score in this one is like 23-19 Rams. I do expect the Titans to get a touchdown on the board. They need to run the football better and make their passing situations less predictable. They need to have more plays that he gets the ball out quickly to some of his tight ends over the middle and set themselves up for more second and short. But, the challenge, look, they can watch the tape. They can watch the tape. They know who they're going after. They're going after the 2 tackles. And this is, when we talk about coaching, I'm really interested to see, with Ken Wisenhunt, he refused to help those offensive linemen. He had to send 5 guys out every time. I don't think this group is in that position this game. They need to keep people in to help because the Rams will be coming. And even if they're coming with 4 or 5, those 4 or 5 are really good. And I would rather have my quarterback upright with nowhere to throw than on his back with a guy open 30 yards downfield.
Cory Curtis News 2. Of course, you can catch him on the news. More importantly, TN Nation on Saturday night. I did see the TN Nation poll in which you said, which Titans quarterback were you?
It was a really good poll.
The answer is Vince Young. The answer is Vince Young.
Do you want to know the results?
I'm going to guess Cam Ward number 1, McNair number 2, Mariota 3, Vince Young 4.
That's right. It's not even
close. That's bullshit. Vince Young. First of all, nobody was excited to see McNair. Everybody had already seen McNair.
Well, and that's why the McNair one really wasn't fair because he'd been in the league. The other guys, I should have put Jake Locker in instead of McNair because he was the first round pick, but then he didn't start his rookie year, so that's why I didn't put him in there.
Nobody had the hype that Vince Young had. Like, it's such revisionist history to pretend like Titan fans are more excited about Cam than they were about Vince Young. Vince Young single-handedly won the national championship for Texas. Like, Vince Young was
pretty good
superstar the day he showed up. Like, he came in as a superstar. It's like Shedeur Sanders, but actually was good. So like that is, and then he was good as a quarterback. But I saw that.
He's nothing like Shedeur Sanders. I'm sorry, nothing like Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders wasn't going to beat Southern Cal by himself.
That is true.
I will say,
like I said, he was like Shedeur, but good.
I have a lot of criticisms for Vince Young because I hate all the excuse making that's made for him. But that performance over USC is still the greatest single game performance by a college football player I've ever seen. I mean, really, really unbelievable.
Cory Curtis News 2. Cory, thank you.
All right, Jared. Good luck in the show, man.
Cory Curtis joining us on the program. And I will say this, I love Cory with all my heart, but holy crap, does he need to get a new microphone. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I was like putting my hands over my ears going like, geez, okay. But, I still love them. And I still love News 2. And again, the poll that they had for TN Nation was, who was the most excited you were to see at Nissan Stadium for the first time? Steve McNair, Cam Ward, Marcus Mariota, Vince Young. And for Vince Young to finish in 4th place is complete and total horse crap. Vince Young absolutely was. You people forget just how freaking good Vince Young was. Okay, it's a new segment that I truly enjoy doing on this program. I enjoyed doing it last week, so I decided we're going to do it this week. And it is the Thursday night sermon. So as you all know, we bring back the football week on Thursday night. And boy, is it a good one. First one, if I may, I am thankful tonight. And this may be the only time I say this. But I am thankful for tonight for the advent of streaming and streaming sports. And here's why. Because before Amazon came in and paid $1 billion a year for Thursday night football, the networks were losing money on the product. NBC had it. They didn't want it anymore. CBS had it. They didn't want it anymore. Fox had it for a couple of years. They didn't want it anymore. Here comes Amazon. Amazon wanted it, and Amazon wanted it big. And because of the money Amazon is spending, the NFL feels the need to give Amazon games on Thursday night worth watching. So we, the consumer, are the beneficiary. And because of that, goodbye Panthers and Falcons on Thursday night. Hello, Commanders and Packers. This is a great game. The Commanders, who were in the NFC Championship game a year ago. The Packers, who might be the favorites in the NFC right now. With the Eagles, maybe. Who knows? But again, a great game. And while normally I am cursing out streaming, when they put a playoff game on Peacock, or when I'm trying to find a Braves baseball game to find out it's on Apple TV, which I do have because for some reason Lindsay thinks we need to pay $9.99 a month or whatever for Apple TV. There was a show she watched, and at some point that was it. I have to say, thank you, streaming, because Thursday night football used to kind of stink. Remember the Titans-Jags games on Thursday night? Now we get the bad teams off and we get good teams on Thursday night football. And here we go. Number 2, I'd like to talk. Oh, first of all, excuse me. Can I get an amen? Number 2, I'd like to talk about the Green Bay Packers for a second. I have no idea if the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl. I have no idea if the Packers are going to make the playoffs, though I think it is probably more likely than not that the Packers are going to make the playoffs. But this decision they've made to go all in with Micah Parsons seems calculated and not impulsive. And as you know, most owners in the NFL are impulsive when they make decisions. They're emotional, but not Green Bay. And you want to know why Green Bay doesn't have an owner making impulsive, emotional decisions? Because the Green Bay Packers don't have an owner. The truth is the Packers probably looked at their team on the field in practice during training camp and thought, we are a Micah Parsons away. And they decided to pull the trigger. Again, this was a calculated move. No owner squirming over what that $47 million a year contract would mean for their private jet fund. The truth is, in this league, 9 times out of 10, the owner always seems to make things worse in the National Football League, not better. And that's why Green Bay is as well run as any organization in the league not named Philadelphia, and it's simply because they don't have an owner. Can I get an amen? Number 3, the Detroit Lions looked like pumpkins last week in week 1, and I know some of that might be because Green Bay's good, but I'm going to be real with you for a second. I think this is who they are. Jared Goff was average, and that's because I think Jared Goff is average. So with one of the best receivers in the league and 2 great running backs and the best offensive line and a great play caller, Jared Goff looked like a superstar, a potential league MVP. But come on now. Jared Goff is the same guy who won games in LA, but Sean McVay didn't think could get over the hump. With Ben Johnson in Chicago and Aaron Glenn in New York, Dan Campbell had to do what Nick Sirianni almost got himself fired trying to do. And that's change both coordinators. The unfortunate reality when it comes to the Detroit Lions, in my opinion, is that they had their shot for 2 years in a row. They went to the NFC title game, and they completely gave it away against San Francisco. And last year, they were unprepared against Washington as the number 1 seed in the divisional round at home. Sorry, you blew it. As a Titan fan, there have really been 2 teams in my lifetime where I thought that team could win the Super Bowl. One was the 2000 Titans that blew it at home. And the other was the 2021 Titans that with Ryan Tannehill's 3 interceptions also blew it at home. After that, A.J. Brown gets traded, and now it's over. That's what's happened in Detroit. Number 4. Can I get an amen? I think I can finally say with complete and total affirmation that I was right 2 summers ago in 2023 when I said the Dolphins were out of their fucking minds to sign Tua Tagovailoa to a top-of-the-market extension. I kept saying at the time, if I were the Dolphins, I'd offer Tua $20 million a year. And when Tua would undoubtedly turn that down because the market rate for starting quarterbacks was in the 50s, I'd say, fine, I'll go get Sam Darnold. People said to me at that time, Jared, you are so stupid. Sam Darnold's not as good as Tua. Yeah. As Dr. Phil would say, how's that working out for you? My reasoning was that Tua never wins big games. And at $53 million a season, you need your quarterback to win you at least one Sunday night football game a year. The Dolphins signed him anyways because there's this weird thing in the league when your quarterback isn't absolute dog shit where you just feel the need to pay him because, well, we got to pay him. And for some reason, that seems to never work. And I think the Dolphins have realized, yeah, that was a bad decision. And I think they realized it last year, which is why this year they did very little to improve their team. Jonnu Smith made a Pro Bowl. Jalen Ramsey was the same Jalen Ramsey he's been, and they gave him away for a bag of footballs. And with volatile personalities like Tyreek Hill, it's falling apart in Miami. People will blame the coach because he's kind of a goober, and I agree. But that's not why the Dolphins, who won a lot of games with Mike McDaniel as the coach, that's not why they're falling apart. They're falling apart because Tua stinks, and the owner knows it. And the owner, who has been accused and, I think, proven to have tanked in the past, has said, you know what? Let's just tank this time without talking about it. Instead of tank for Tua, I think what the Dolphins have decided to do this year is tank with Tua. And the good news is for the Dolphins, they're not going to be dumb enough to tell anybody that's what they're doing. So they won't lose their first-round draft pick, and the owner won't get fined and suspended again. All they have to do to keep losing is just keep playing Tua. My biggest issue with Tua was he would dominate the stat line on these noon Sunday kickoffs on CBS with Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta and broadcasters nobody ever watched. But if Tony Romo called his game or he was on Sunday Night Football or in primetime, he would fold like a piece of paper. Well, apparently now, Tua has lost his superpower, and that is the noon kickoff on CBS that nobody watches. Because on Sunday, they kicked off on noon on CBS with Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta. And guess what? They got their asses kicked by Daniel Jones. Can I get an amen? And finally, with streaming, I have to get this off my chest. Even though I'm happy with Amazon having Thursday Night Football and giving us better games, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said yesterday that for fans who can't afford streaming packages, well, they can always just watch the highlights of our games instead. Adam Silver would have been better off saying, dude, that's your problem. Because that's pretty much what he meant. The truth is, the NBA is so completely out of touch with the population and its consumer base that is why the ratings of that league continue to go down the drain. And these TV deals in which the league is going to make billions and billions of dollars, 77 to be exact, over 11 years, are going to be similar to the CBS and NBC Big Ten contracts. And eventually, there will be another shoe to fall. But I guess in the meantime, you can just watch the highlights, as Adam Silver suggested. Boy, what a way to come out and say, yeah, fuck it, don't watch our games. They're not worth a shit anyways. And finally, I have to get to this. And I only bring this one up because it does truly, truly bother me. This week we have Tennessee playing Georgia. It should be a good football game, but who really knows? I have no idea what will happen. And I have no idea what will happen because I really have no idea how good either team is. Tennessee beat a Syracuse team that apparently played so badly on Saturday that their head coach made them run wind sprints after beating UConn on the field in front of all the fans. Tennessee's second game, they won by 60 against East Tennessee State. Meanwhile, the sixth-ranked Bulldogs have beaten Marshall and Austin Peay. Whoa. Can I ask, why are we playing these games? And I understand that East Tennessee State and Marshall and Austin Peay get a fortune to get creamed by Tennessee and Georgia. But who really benefits from that game? Other than, I guess, the volleyball program at East Tennessee State. And the answer is nobody. Nobody gets anything out of those games. Maybe somebody who will never be able to afford a ticket to a real Georgia football game can finally see one when they play the Sisters of the Poor 3 times a year. And if you miss the Marshall game and you miss the Austin Peay game, guess what? Good news for you. You want to see the Hedges? Well, let's go get tickets for $12 because there is one game left on Georgia's schedule, a November 22nd game versus Charlotte. And the get-in price for that game is $45. Tell me how that one ends. Oh, wait, I already know. Or I guess, like Adam Silver suggested, we can all just watch the highlights. Again, I have no idea how good these teams are because they haven't played anybody worth a shit. It would be nice for college football, who has mega ratings that keep soaring, to finally get rid of the body bag games. We'll find a way to fund the volleyball program for ETSU and Austin Peay some other way. But can we please play real games? That's it for us. Like and subscribe. Enjoy Thursday Night Football tonight. Green Bay -3.5. I will take Green Bay. There's something about Green Bay. I just like Washington. I don't know if it was kind of a fluke that they got there. Green Bay, I don't know. But I will take Washington. Excuse me, I will take Green Bay against Washington tonight. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if Washington ends up winning. And I do have big news because I got the text from Braden Gall that we are now officially live on Apple Podcasts. So if you want to listen to the program on Apple Podcasts, and that's 80% of the phone podcast audience, do like me. I'm an Apple Podcast guy. Subscribe there. Just like I want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, wherever we are now, everywhere. So subscribe and like and listen in the car and maybe listen, down the, hey, you've got a road trip. Listen to 3 in a row of these hour shows. Thank you. That's it for us, Stillman and Company, right here, 440 Sports, back tomorrow and now officially live on Apple Podcasts. Stillman and Company. By the way, James Foster will join the program tomorrow to break down the film. Very excited about that. Stillman and Company. We will see everybody live tomorrow at 2:00 and on demand wherever you get your podcasts across all digital platforms.